Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Experience podcast. Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Experience podcast. I'm Ben Crompton. You might know me from my other podcasts, Two Fat Brokers, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and Pacific Rim. I am here with the CEO of Transparent Property Management, Meara He.
Hi.
Hey.
I think the first time you called me the CEO of something, I don't know, I made it into the C-suite, but sounds good.
One day. And today we're talking about the role of property management in property investment, how it can get you, more security, better returns. Is it right for you? And just discussing how that relates to the Abu Dhabi market. So anyway, let's start with something that everyone is familiar with: Airbnb, short-term rentals. How can that help someone if they've just bought a property or they're thinking about buying a property? What things should they be thinking about when considering short-term?
I think short-term rental is just another way of monetizing your real estate asset, really. And whether that is something good to do versus the long-term rent, I think it has a lot of factors to consider. Because
that's always the comparison, right? So the standard in the Abu Dhabi market is you rent for a year at a time. So you get a tenant for a full year, pretty much. Or you get this, it's a relatively new market, the short-term rental market.
So I think, like I said, it has a lot of factors to consider because not every location is suitable for Airbnb. And for Airbnb, you do have a lot of operational costs as well that you have to factor in. For example, the landlord will need to pay for all the utilities, the internet, the setting up of the apartment, and plus,
because they're all furnished.
Yeah, they're all furnished. Ask them to sleep on the floor. Just give them mattress.
It's an option.
Yeah. So you have to look into that, and not just only furnishing up, but have to furnish with a style, because obviously that's what you are marketing it, right? It has to look nice.
Because it competes with a hotel, basically.
Yeah, and then...
that's it. 10 years ago, it didn't exist. If you wanted to go to Abu Dhabi for a week, you'd stay in a hotel.
And then you also have to think about what is your selling point as well, because a lot of the Airbnb owner, they probably think, okay, I just converted to an Airbnb with furniture, but then what is your selling point? Because you are not the only Airbnb unit in the market. So, is it your interior design particularly look nice, where it's facing certain attractive view? Where it's close to certain destination that is attractive to tourists, or you provide something additional to kind of entice the guest to come and to book yours. So there are a lot of things to consider when it comes to doing short-term versus long-term rent, and then it's something that we can definitely help our client with to do an evaluation to see whether this is a suitable location to do. And
because it's not just location, right? Because some units are not appropriate. Like, for example, let's say a 7-bed villa. And you're not going to be able to Airbnb.
Right.
And I think even villas in general are quite difficult to Airbnb, right? What are most Airbnbs? 1 and 2 bed apartments? Maybe 3?
Studio, 1 bed. It depends on the location. For example, if you want to do Airbnb on Yas Island, I would think 2-bedroom probably is a very attractive kind of type of property, because a lot of amusement parks are tailoring for families. So if you have an additional room, that will appeal to a lot of
somewhere
family.
to shove the kids in.
And especially, hotels are very short with those kind of family room. They are
true.
They have more studios, more 1 bed, but rarely for 2 beds or 3 beds. And Yas is a location for family to have some good fun together. So, if you want to do Airbnb on Yas, I would think, 2-bedroom might be a very good option to consider. And plus, in addition to expenses and market, whether it fits the market or not, another thing is vacancy period. Because Abu Dhabi can be very seasonal when it comes to tourists.
Yeah,
so you
true.
have to factor in the vacancy period in between guests. So a lot of clients, they go to Airbnb and then they look at the prices other people advertise and think that is the price that they are going to get. And that's very wrong, because you can list it 365 days a year, but it doesn't mean it's occupied 365 days a year. So, vacancy period is definitely something you need to factor in. However, based on Meara's, I think the CEO of Meara did some sort of a public speaking in a conference last year or this year. Cannot remember, but there was a news article about it. He said basically the hotel occupancy rate for Yas Island reached more than 80% yearly. So that is a very, very high occupancy rate, internationally speaking, because even if you reach 70%, 72%, that's already considered high. But Yas Island is 80%.
And for the UAE, where let's say for 3 months of the year it's pretty warm and not really tourist season, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And then they seem to have a shortage of hotel supply in Abu Dhabi, because I think they have really built everywhere they could on Yas Island.
In terms of hotels. There's a big hotel plot on Yas Bay, but I don't know if they're gonna build that anymore. One thing that people forget about Airbnbs is there's also a business traveler element to it, right? I've heard particularly Reem Island's been doing very well for Airbnbs, for business travelers, obviously not as good for tourism. So that could perhaps take up, if you could find somewhere with a bit of tourism, bit of business, that might take up kind of slack in the off season and double your market.
But then the expenses are also a lot higher as well for Airbnb.
Yeah. But I mean, you're charging more rent. I mean, most Airbnb providers charge anywhere between 17 and 25% of the gross income. Is that fair?
We charge about 25%. Maybe you should cut it on the podcast. But
yes, I will definitely do that.
Take note. Yeah. So and because there's a lot of turnaround, and then also, as a business,
turnaround, like a lot of work. Obviously.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people for like one day, right? So
and then also the check-in time is also very different.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't need to be there, because you can set up some sort of a lock system and then they can get the lock and key. But then there's still a lot of communication and a lot of cleaning, tidying up. How do you make sure things are put at the right place and stuff like that?
But the rental expectation is much higher.
We need to do analysis for it, like I said.
But I mean, generally speaking,
yes,
in the market.
Generally speaking.
I mean, obviously, if someone has an investment property, then they should do this analysis of the difference between short-term and long-term to see which one is going to get them better returns.
Yeah, that's true.
But the good thing about short-term rental is it's like kind of fully property managed. Like you don't really have any, you've got to pay the utility bills, but presumably you can get the company to pay those for you if needed. But you don't have, you have no interaction with the tenant whatsoever. Right? There's no kind of renewals like you might have in a long-term tenancy. There's no, there is maintenance, but you probably don't have angry tenants calling you up because there's an issue with property management, although it ever happened under transparent. But it's a really kind of hands-off way of managing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with us in general, we are trying to make it as hands-off as possible for our clients, regardless of whether it's long-term or short-term. I think that is more of a management company's approach to how they manage their portfolio versus, what type of rent you're going for, whether it's short-term or long-term.
So what do you think of the let's say profiles of clients that you have for your standard property management, where you just do the annual rent? What kind of profiles do you have? Obviously, overseas owners. What other kind of owners do you have?
We have a lot of them are Western expats, just because you guys.
Ones who are overseas, or?
Yes, ones are overseas, but even some of them who live locally, sometimes they would just give it to us to manage, because they know actually managing the asset is the most tiring part, because there's constant things from the tenants, maintenance issues, and if you are not resourceful enough, then it's sometimes very difficult for a landlord to kind of figure out what to do. Even us as a professional PM company, we're still constantly trying to solve mystery, not misery. what's the close?
Solving misery.
Yeah, mysteries of like how to do certain things, because we know the rules and regulations here can change very quickly, very fast, but sometimes there is no clear guideline yet on how to do certain things. So a lot of trial and error, even for us, to figure out a way of helping our clients. And that's just part of our business, part of the nature. And I just cannot imagine for, an expat owner to figure it out by themselves. Even if they're in the country, they might still find it very difficult, yes. But majority of our clients are overseas. And we also have some, say, Emirati landlords. They have a lot of many units or many properties, but again, they don't want the hassle. They want to give it to us because they know we're trustworthy, we're dependable, reliable. And then that is something really set us apart from majority of the service providers in Abu Dhabi market for property management.
I mean, I think it's something you see, more in the West and more in Dubai, and not so much in Abu Dhabi, but it's becoming more popular, is paying to save yourself time. So, I mean, if you just talk about leasing, the traditional way of people finding things to lease is to walk from building to building, asking the natur, do you have anything for lease? How many bedrooms is it? Like, what's the rent? And so it's an incredibly time-intensive way of doing it. But they save the 5%, commission. And what you see now is people, being, let's say, more cash rich and time poor, and they value the time that they have, and they be like, and this is free market capitalism. I'm going to spend my time doing what I do really well and earning lots of money, and the time I'm not doing that, I want to spend it doing leisure with my family, all this kind of other stuff.
Absolutely.
Whereas in the past, it's been, okay, I'm going to do my job, and then I've got all these other things where I'm going to save money by doing them myself. Property management being a great example.
And the funny thing is, like, both of us give our properties to Transparent Property Management to manage.
So that we don't have to do it ourselves.
So we don't have to do it ourselves. Even though I'm in the business, I'd much rather just sign a contract with my own company and then give it to them to manage, because it's a lot of work, seriously. And a lot of owners, they don't believe me. And then they think, oh, I can do it by myself. There are still those kind of people, like I can do it by myself. But then the thing is, you don't know what's required. You might think, all right, what do you mean? I got the tenancy contract. I have Tauthi, I have these and that. I know what to do. No, you don't. Because, for example, we do very thorough move-in inspection. We do very thorough move-out inspection. We have all these things documented. We have all the communication we have with tenant and landlord documented. Why? Because for property management, you don't know when you need something. For example, a tenant could live in the property for 5 years. When the tenant moves out, the tenant is disputing about security deposit and say, this thing was broken when I moved in. If you don't have the record, go and prove them wrong. How do you prove them wrong? You cannot prove them wrong, right? And then you just become an argument, right? No, you're wrong. No, I'm right. There's no way to settle it. And then you got yourself...
Well, most landlords just don't give the deposit back, right? So, I mean, there, in and of itself, is an argument for tenants to rent with a property manager, right? Because they get that security where the landlord doesn't come on. And I actually remember renting from one of the big landlords, and we moved in and there was a crack on the hot plate. And when we moved out, we had to pay to replace the hot plate. But I'm like, that was there originally. And even being in real estate, I never made a note of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was foolish. So as a tenant, you get that security. And then if you can attract tenants, do you think that, as a property manager, you can add value to an investment, not just in terms of time, the time where the landlord is obviously not spending managing his property, but in terms of occupancy rates, rent?
I think definitely.
Legal?
You.
Tell me. Legal. Nothing to do with me.
Your thing.
I used to be a Cambridge-educated lawyer, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah. So I think definitely, for example, currently we don't have any vacant unit. We rent it all out. And even before unit become available, we try to arrange for viewing. So as soon as the tenant moves out, we have really got someone lined up. So that's a great way.
You say because normally a unit's vacant for a month while they try and find another tenant, right? If you can back to back your tenants, you save that breakage because a month is 8% of your rental income, right?
Every week is 2%. Yes. So currently we don't have any vacant unit because we have really lined up tenants even for some of the available soon, meaning they're not yet available. We have tenants for that, and also. Currently, we have quite a long list of upcoming available units, but it's not because we don't retain the tenant well, but because landlords want to achieve better rent by finding new tenants. So they want to evict their current one.
So you think we should cut this out of the podcast too, Meara, because you're going a little bit off piece there.
No, allow me to explain what I mean.
Please do.
Yeah, the reason why the landlord does that is because we inform them about the market situation. So they know what is the
market rents.
The market rent. So the landlords know what are the market rent that they can command. And then we take care of all the hard work of, moving out the current tenant, settle security deposit, and then find a new replacement tenant for the landlord. And I think if you're an overseas landlord, you might just feel, this is too much work. I'd much rather just stick with my old tenant and then just carry on. But the market is different.
For the old tenant to renew.
Yeah, to renew because it's so much work to, move out an old tenant and then find a new tenant. But with us, we inform you what is the market situation.
Why can't you just raise the rent on your tenant?
Because there is a cap, right, in Abu Dhabi of 5%. So
you can only raise the rent 5%?
Legally, yes. We try to do things legally.
I'm sure there's no illegal way of doing it.
Yes, but then we abide to the law, so we do things legally. So it's 5% rental increase.
So if a landlord wants, or if the market is above that, then the landlord's only real recourse is to ask that tenant to leave and find a new tenant.
Legally speaking, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a shame the way that works, but I suppose that's
that is the current.
The way the market is.
Until government change the rule, we just follow the rule. Right?
Very sensible. So you keep an eye on where the rents are, and you keep your landlords. Well, when a renewal comes round, you let them know what your expectation for the rent is.
Right. Yeah, and then we make sure. And then we make sure we have system to give us reminder on renewal 120 days before the expiry of a tenancy, so the landlord will not miss the deadline.
What's the rule on that?
60 days. Legally speaking, you need to give renewal notice 60 days. But we try to do it ahead of time so all the landlords, they won't miss the deadline. Because sometimes overseas landlords, they really just, don't think about anything else. So even though we take care of everything here, we still need their input. Like, do you want to renew with your tenant, right? Sometimes we still need to chase them. So we just make sure we got enough buffer so you won't miss your deadline. If you really want to, move your tenant out, you have the time to give the notice to the tenant so you are fully legal.
And doing that, and obviously, being legally compliant is very important. It avoids, court cases, which in Abu Dhabi can be long and costly, and obviously eat into your rental returns.
Oh yeah, definitely. You don't want to do that.
Obviously, you've got compliance there, but then what do you think if a tenant does want to bring a legal case, or a landlord for that matter? What's the best way of resolving those?
So I think we always try to settle it amicably. It's always much, much better than going to court, because the one that will suffer the most in any court case is actually the landlord, not the tenant, because your properties are likely not be able to rent out until the court case is resolved. So we always try to advise our landlord. We will try to facilitate the conversation and then the negotiation and the communication to settle things amicably. It's at the favor of our landlord. And so far, I think we have only ever had one court case in our company's history. Again, touch wood. And then it wasn't really, what does that look?
It's not wood. I think it's some kind of plastic.
Oh, right. I thought you mean like I haven't bothered you enough with legal advice. You are not happy about that. So, and we only have one court case so far, and then it wasn't really because of us. So we got dismissed from the case very early on. But still, we always try to settle things before it has to go to the court, which we think it's there's always a solution on something. If you are attentive enough, and then if you are proactive enough, and then if you are a problem solver, like trying to solve problem for your client and also for your tenant and trying to forge a solution and agreement, a lot of things can be done before going to court case.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever wants to go to court. That's rare.
You say that, but then I told you this already. Like one of our clients gave us 2 properties to manage and gave 2 properties to another company, and she got sued twice.
Yeah, but I think her tenants probably didn't want to sue her.
Right.
They would rather have settled somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so she was like, why the portfolio with you guys are so smooth? Like everything is just so smooth. And then why did I get sued from the other portfolio that she gave to the other company twice? And I think one thing is that what did the other company do? Did they try to help you communicate with your tenant to kind of forge a resolution, on how to settle this before you have to go to the court case? Because I personally, even sometimes when I deal with other property management company in the market, I feel they're unresponsive at all. You send them messages, you send them emails, you call them.
Shocked. Color me shocked.
Yeah, you call them, they don't reply. Like I remember there was a landlord, we managed like 6 units of his, and he loves us. He really was really happy with us. But unfortunately, he had to take mortgage with the bank, and then the bank basically told him that you have to use our appointed service provider for property management service. So he had to switch from us to the other company. But because we helped him from the handover of his unit, so all the utility account was still under our company email address. So we still get like bills for chill water, capacity charges, and those things. And then we will forward it to his new property manager and say, hey, this is the bill you need to pay, or you need to transfer the account, to yourself or whatever. No one reply. No one respond. And then I have to eventually contact my client, the ex-client, and say, I'm sorry, but I kept on getting the unpaid bill reminder for your units. I tried to reach out to your new property manager. No one is taking action. That's why I'm forwarding to you. Perhaps you can settle it from your end. So...
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of obviously you pitch to people property management a lot. Obviously, overseas landlords are pretty easy because they're not here. There's the time-saving element. If a landlord is here, not wanting to deal with it. There's the staying on top of the market in terms of rents because you're in the market all the time. And obviously avoiding legal cases. Any other reasons why a landlord might get property management with transparent property management?
I think first of all, in Abu Dhabi, I really strongly think we are probably the best property management company. I don't say
I would agree.
But then I don't say it because, this is our business. We own this thing. But it's true because Abu Dhabi, first, you don't have many choices when it comes to having an independent property management provider. It's either part of the bank, part of the developer, even though they may name sound differently. But then they are actually part of the developers. Very often that is the case.
Yeah.
Or they are part of a real estate agency. So they're like a team of a real estate agency. So their job is, their primary focus is actually not to manage, but to have the data and have the exclusivity of the property to rent and
the
to
leasing
lease.
commission.
Yeah, for leasing commission. I think we are probably the only truly independent property management company in Abu Dhabi.
But you're a sister company of Crompton Partners.
Right, but then still we operate very differently. Right, you guys do your own thing, we do our own thing, but we help each other out. Like you guys refer as client, we provide certain services to your client.
Well, the big thing is you don't keep the commission in the leasing deal, right? when you work with other brokers, you know.
Oh, but we still
you
take
incentivize
we still take some commission
I think
cut.
it's 1% though, right?
1 to 2% of the commission cut.
Whereas most other property managers, it would be at least 2.5.
And then often they don't even work with other agencies. They just want to keep it to themselves. But, you know, saying that, I think because Transparent is independent, well, we are part of Crompton Group, but then we are not, like Ben doesn't really...
Who's this Ben guy?
The too fat broker, one of the fat one.
The thinnest one.
Like you don't really get involved with the operation kind of thing.
True.
I am the one who set up the system, the dashboard. So everything is, we have metrics to track everything. You know, we have the dashboard, so I know exactly what's going on. We have our own company structure. We do our own hiring. We do our own training. So I think fundamentally, we know what is the focus of property management, which is different from leasing and sales. Our job is to save our owner time and effort and money. So in TPM, we stress a lot on being a proactive problem solver. We are not just a messenger, like, oh, the tenants say, and forward the message to the landlord. And then the landlord say and forward the message to the tenant. That is not problem solving. That is not managing the property. We don't do that. But you'll be surprised. That's how properties are managed a lot of the time in Abu Dhabi. And also, we emphasize a lot on preventative measurement, like try to prevent problems from happening is more important than solving the problem when it has already happened. And that takes a lot of planning. You have to plan into your SOP procedure. So your team members, your staff knows what to do at what time, right? And then you have a system to remind them, when do you need to do what? And then you have a system to tell them like what documents you need to save to avoid problem. So there's a lot of thinking and planning and designing in the company's SOP.
The boring part.
Yeah, to prevent problems from happening. And when problem does happen, then how do you solve it? And then those things takes a lot of training and also thinking and planning and implementing and trial and error. And I think a lot of the owners underestimate that. And I think a lot of companies who claim they do property management in the market, they don't see the value of that. And then they don't do it because their job is in leasing, in sales, because that's what makes the money. It's not property management. It's not maintenance. But if you really want to manage well, that's what you need to do. And I don't think other companies do that here. So, yeah. We are the best one.
Thank you, Meara.
Oh,
I
that's
think
it?
that was a very good overview of the benefits, I think, of property management to investors.
Yeah, can I just say one last thing? We're also opening up our office in Dubai. So
in Dubai.
In Dubai.
So successful, you're spreading your wings.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
I'm taking you there too.
I will never go to Dubai. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's been the real estate experience. I've been Ben Crompton.
Meara He.
Yeah, and we've been talking about transparent property management. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.